It's story time! Yay! Tonight's story, as always, is going to be completely made up. But to make sure you're really nice and comfy, I've got a lovely duvet, your favourite pillow, and a book to read from. Are you ready? Okay, time to get comfy. Go on, get comfy, get comfy. Here's your duvet, I'll come tuck you in. Tuck you in. Yeah. Nice and cozy. Oh, yeah. Lovely. And here's your favourite pillow. All shiny black. And let's make it shiny gold again. There we are. Are you comfy now? Great. And here is our book. None other than the vintage Mrs. Beaton's Everyday Cookery. This is my favourite book to read from for story time. Now, today's story is called The Beach. Once upon a time, there was a little man who lived at the edge of the beach. He had a little house made of driftwood at the edge of the beach. The driftwood house was now stark white from all the weather that had been thrown at the little house. Inside the little driftwood house lived the little man. Now the little man was a maker. The little man made seashell charms and would sell them down at the market. One day the little man was down at the market selling his wares when all of a sudden an old woman came past, inquiring about one of his items. She asked, "Excuse me, could I please purchase this lovely shell earring?" And the little man thought, "Well, of course. Would you like to try it first? It might not suit you. It might suit you very well." The little woman said, "Oh, it doesn't bother me whether it suits me or not. It isn't for me." The little man apologised, said that's perfectly fine. Of course you can have it. It is £10. The little woman said, "Oh, no, I don't have any money." The little man said, "Oh, but I sell all of my things for money because I need money to buy the food, and I need money to repair my driftwood house, and I need money to buy little crafts to use on the shell ornaments." The little woman said, "Not to worry. Here, instead, you can have this purse." The little man looked at the purse. It was sparkling silver and had some interesting patterns on it which he didn't see, patterns which he hadn't seen before. The little woman said, "Please, here, take the purse in exchange for the earrings." The little man sighed and was a bit disappointed. He was hoping to purchase some groceries that evening because he only had a carrot left at the house. But a purse could be sold, so he exchanged the earrings for the purse. And then the little woman went off. He looked at the purse and thought, it wasn't particularly beautiful, but he might be able to get £5 or maybe £6 for it if he sold it at the next market the following day. That night, the little man was in his little house. He was slicing up his carrot. And he looked at the purse and thought, well, I may as well put something in it to be useful for a little while. He thought he might sell it the next day, but had decided maybe not. So he popped his keys into the purse and he popped his tools into the purse as well. And then he kept cooking dinner. Later that evening, while he had finished dinner and was washing the dishes, there was a strange sound. And he hadn't heard it before. His driftwood house made some sounds he was quite used to. The wind, the waves, the creaking. There were some little midgies that lived in the edges of the house. But this sound was more of a shimmering, creaking, buzzing sound. And he hadn't heard that before. He looked around to see where the sound was coming from. It wasn't from the little fire pit. It wasn't coming from his stash of pillows for his bed. It was coming from the purse. He held his head up to the purse and listened. Yes, it was definitely coming from the purse. He picked up the purse and it was quite light, which was a bit concerning because he had popped his keys and a few tools in there earlier, but they didn't seem to be in there anymore. He lifted up the lid and lifted up the flap of the purse and looked in. Couldn't see anything. It was just dark, an abyss. He popped his hand in to rifle around to see where it went, and all of a sudden, the little man didn't know what had happened. He opened his eyes. It was quite dark, quite ominous, but there was this buzzing sound. So he was turning, trying to find which way it was coming from. Couldn't see where was up, where was down. He didn't seem to be walking on anything, but he thought he'd draw himself closer to the sound, moving through this dark, unusual void. The little man was following the sound with his mind, following and following. It took him for quite some time. Didn't seem to catch it, and then the sound started getting louder and louder and louder, and he saw a little star in the distance. So he went towards the star, moving in this strange void. And then the star became some steps, and then the steps became more steps, and he went up the steps, and at the edge of the steps there was some fabric. It was golden and shiny and pearlescent. He touched it and it was really soft and silky. He kept walking. He stepped very gently over the fabric, and then before him opened up the quite marvellous vista. Some kind of unusual, joyous, magical space was in front of him. There wasn't necessarily land or trees, but it was quite sensational. So he kept walking, and then as he kept walking, he noticed, just in the distance, something moving backwards and forwards. So he walked closer towards it, and there was the old woman sitting in a rocking chair, knitting. He piped up, "Excuse me." "Yes, dear." "Are you the little woman who bought my earrings yesterday? Or earlier today?" "Me? No, not me. That was my sister." He shook his head, confused. "Keep going, son. Keep going." "Keep going where?" the little man said. "Onwards." He looked a bit puzzled at her, but thought, okay, and then kept walking, and walking, and walking, and walking, and nobody ever saw him again. Good night. Sweet dreams.